When it comes to foreign policy, the President of the Republic of the Philippines is the chief architect. No question about that. That is in our Constitution. But other branches of the state, co-equal branches of the state like the Senate, also have a thing or two to say. In fact, treaties have to be ratified by the Senate of the Philippines in order for them to be final and binding. That means technically, the President of the Philippines and the executive branch does not have a monopoly on determining the Philippines' foreign policy. In that regard, we need to talk to legislators and how domestic politics shapes foreign policy, and vice versa. It is that dialectical relationship that we want to understand today when we talk to one of the most prominent and influential senators in Philippine history. Tonight, we have the privilege of having a long conversation with Senator Raffy Tulfo. Good evening, Senator. Good to see you in person.
Good to see you, Richard. How are you?
Pleasure, sir. Thank you for joining us. Of course, people who are familiar with our show since last season is usually, ambassadors, people in charge of foreign policy, foreign policy experts. But today, I feel this is going to be very interesting.
Do I belong here?
Yeah, definitely. Because, Senator, there's no way to understand the Philippines' place in the world if you don't understand the Philippines as a place, what's happening inside the country, the politics of the country. And as I mentioned, it is true that per the Philippine Constitution, yung ating presidente ang chief architect ng ating foreign policy. Pero may masabi rin ng Senado. I mean, the Senate is in charge of ratification of treaties. They're co-equal branches of the government, my checks and balances, etc. So we really appreciate, Senator, you allocating time for this conversation over the next 40-45 minutes, hopefully, to talk about a range of issues. But before we go dun sa mga mabibigat na mga bagay, pag-usapan muna natin, how is your more or less first year in the Senate, Senator Raffy Tulfo?
Well, I'm getting the hang of it, meaning I'm getting comfortable. Unlike before when I was what we call a neophyte, which I no longer consider myself as a neophyte because I've been there for more than a year. Kaya komportable na ako, okay na ako. I think I'm doing good.
Sir, ano ba yung mga expectations niyo bago kayo pumasok sa Senado? And ano yung mga expectation versus reality? At saka ano yung mga, more or less, yung na-expect niyo nangyari na rin sa Senado? Or was there a thing that surprises you with the Senate? Or was it more or less what you were expected?
That's a very good question, as a matter of fact. Because when I first entered the halls of the Senate, I was thinking like, wow, this is different from what I've been used to sa mga radio show ko, sa mga TV stations and radio stations I've been with, na iba ang dating. Very respectable yung mga tao nandoon. And hindi ko na basta-basta pwedeng dalhin yung mga ugali ko dun sa mga radio programs ko because there is a process that I have to follow. And that's one thing which makes me very uncomfortable the first few weeks.
Medyo ilang kayo nung una.
And then after that, like I said, I got a hang of it, so I get more comfortable. Ngayon, smooth sailing na ako.
I mean, sir,
fortunately.
I mean, the thing is, more or less, dinala niyo yung genre niyo, no? Ng muckraker style of journalism. Some would even say medyo bardagulan style into the Senate. And it looks like it's working because I'm also active on social media and all. Ang biro ko sa mga kaibigan natin sa America is, alam mo, may channel sila ng C-SPAN, yung kino-cover yung Senado and Kongreso nila. At ang joke is walang nanonood. Sabi ko, meron kaming senador na si Senator Raffy Tulfo na yung parang C-SPAN natin ay ginawa niyang parang show. Like, I mean, ang dami mga clips about your cross-examinations and interactions. Nagva-viral. I mean, like, who would have thought na Senate sessions can get millions of views or hundreds of thousands of views? In fact, I think may mga bloggers, ang specialization nila just to cover the Tulfo sessions. Are you surprised by that? Are you natuwa ba kayo sa ganyan?
Not at all. Not at all. Kasi yung mga dinadala ko doon sa Senado, yung mga actuations ko doon sa Senado, it is the result of me listening to so many problems that comes to me every day.
Tsaka yung stakeholders, no? Yung mga
stakeholders. And then, physically, nakakausap ko sila, sinasabi nila yung mga problema nila sa akin, and so, dinadala ko yun sa Senate. So, yun yung mga real problems, the everyday life that the people that comes to me, that they encounter, at dinadala ko sa Senado. And then, alam ko kung paano i-handle yan because for the past 20 years, I've been handling complaints and I've been giving solutions to complaints by different people from all walks of life. At nabibigyan ko solusyon. Alam ko yung problema, dinadala ko yung problema sa Senado, and then pinapakita ko sa kanila yung problemang ito, it's been there for a long time and nobody's doing anything, and I'm here to do something about it. I've been elected by the people to solve this kind of problem once and for all. Not a band-aid solution, but through legislation and changing the policy by way of legislation. At kapag pag hindi nila naintindihan yan, that's when I get kind of upset. Kaya kung minsan kung ako'y nagagalit sa Senado, my apologies.
Sir Raffy, I mean, let's go a little bit back. I mean, what convinced you to run for the Senate? I mean, you're a popular person, you have a huge following, but ano yung nabibigay, ano ba yung ambag nung yung position sa Senado na hindi mo makuha doon bilang isang independent journalist back in the day or mainstream journalist?
Yes. Actually, wala talaga akong balak, Richard, na pumasok sa Senado. A lot of people have been telling me years and years back na bagay ka sa Senado, malaking magiging tulong mo sa Senado. And I said, no way. And then, one day, nahihirapan ako na kontakin yung mga agencies ng gobyerno, especially the people that calls the shots para ilapit yung problema ng ordinary mamamayan. They don't answer my phone calls. Binabagsakan akong telepono. And then some people, yung mga netizens na nakikinig, nanonood, Idol, bastos siya na. Idol, siguro it's time that pumunta ka sa Senado. Dahil pag sa Senado ka, hindi ka na pwede isnabi.
May authority ka.
You have that authority.
Yeah.
We'll vote for you para yung mga taong nagwawalang sa amin, hindi kami nabibigyan ng boses, mabibigyan kami ng boses when you go to the Senate. I said, why not?
Right.
So, pinag-isipan ko na mabuti. And so I promised them na pagdating sa Senado, lahat ng problema nyo rito, then I will definitely bring it to the Senate and you have a big voice, and that would be me.
Sir Tulfo, I have a question. I mean, was there an adjustment that you made in terms of your approach to, questions of truth, no? At saka yung questions of accountability, yung may pananagutan dun sa mga abuso na nangyari nung pumasok po kayo sa Senado? Because there are certain parliamentary norms, certain expectations. There are also certain stereotypes, the Tulfo brand, no? Siga, na of course there are accusations na minsan, hindi yan sumusunod sa due process, gusto nila shortcut, gusto nila vigilante style kind of justice. What do you have to say about that? I mean, I've had many students, have written about the Tulfo way of justice, and people are saying, well, first of all, you're many brothers and each of you have your own style. We had the chance to talk to your other brother Erwin Tulfo back in the day. So ano yung mga misconceptions about Raffy Tulfo, Senator Raffy Tulfo, and how did you make that adjustments when you came into the Senate? Yeah.
First of all, yung adjustment that I have to make is yung bang napapamura ako every once in a while pag nasa radio ako, which I'm not, I didn't bring that to the Senate.
Right.
Bigla akong nagagalit sa radio, napapasigaw ako dito sa Senate, nami-minimize ko na yan. That's a big adjustment for me. And kung ako'y nagagalit sa Senate, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. I have to speak the language that those people who are being complained to me understand. Kasi I'm the last resort. Yung mga tao pupunta sa akin, they were let down by the process. They went to the barangay chairman, then they went to the police, they went to different kinds of agencies to get a solution to their problem. Pero inisnab sila.
Yeah.
The system failed them. So the last resort is ipapatulfo kita. Pagdating niya kay Tulfo, of course, hindi ko naman sila dadaan ulit sa mahabang proseso. Shortcut ang ginagawa ko. I cut corners, but legally.
You mean bureaucratic corners, pero sang-ayon pa rin ito sa exactly.
I cut the red tape. I'll cut the bullshit.
Yeah. You'll cut the excesses. Yeah.
The blank. The excesses.
Yeah.
The arrogance of these people in government who thinks that since they have the power, they can just say no, thumbs down to these poor citizens that come to their office. Yeah.
That's a very good distinction kasi Senator Tulfo, usually there's this conception or misconception na pag Tulfo, vigilante style yan na i-shortcut mo, not necessarily in accordance with due process. But what we're saying is, no, you're cutting the red tape, yung excess, but it's more or less sang-ayon dun sa ating saligang batas. At yun ang dapat i-provide ng sistema ng hustisya. In fact, I heard, I'm not gonna spill beans, that you have been working with many very progressive, LGU leaders and others to make sure kunyari, may mayor sa isang syudad, may problema yung mga tao, kausapin mo daw yung mayor. Yun ang sinasabi sa akin yung mga magaling na mayor na hindi sinasabi ni Idol Raffy Tulfo yan, pero actually behind the scenes, He's very cooperative. We work
Yes.
together. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that? Kasi hindi masyadong alam ng tao yan. Hindi na-appreciate
May
yan.
mga times na hindi ko talaga kaya ng show ko, then I go to the courts. Nirefer ko yung kaso sa korte, tinutulungan ko yung complainant, binibigyan ko ng abogado. But let me tell you this, Richard. Recently, halimbawa, lumapit sa akin yung mga taga-Masungi. Okay, and you know about the case in Masungi, they're a protected area, and some environmentalists told me about their plight. So, during the budget hearing, sabi ko doon sa DNR to stop abusing yung protected area natin sa Masungi. Nagmamatigas sila nung una, so sabi ko, if you will not, and then mayroon akong mga ebidensya, pinakitaan ko sila mga nakalagay sa batas natin, then I will defer your budget. And I show some pieces of evidence na talagang nagbabiolate sila doon sa batas natin, especially sa mga IPs na abuso.
Indigenous peoples.
Indigenous people. And I was able to oblige them to stop their operation. Yung meron kasi doon yung wind farm, that they allowed
Correct.
wind farm to operate inside that protected area.
Correct.
And I asked them to stop. Right there and then, they said, okay, we will stop. If I will tell the DNR as a broadcaster, they will not listen. Because if I'm telling them as a senator, and I will use that power given to the senator, which is to defer a budget because there's a violation of the law, then they will listen.
Right.
Another thing is dun sa Black Sun. We have these Black Sun operators who are operating illegally, getting our Black Sun minerals, and then siniship sa China. And the government is not getting a single penny from the taxes that should be paid by these
literally,
operators.
lupa natin yan.
Lupa natin yun.
Yeah,
Ang kumikita lang yung operator. So sabi ko, alam nyo, illegal yan, stop. They said, okay, we will stop. Just imagine kung ako ay isang Raffy Tulfo broadcaster.
No matter how big you're falling, iba pa rin.
They will say, who are you? But if I'm
Senator,
telling them that I'm, as a senator, you have to stop. And I'm telling you, and I have the voice of the people, I have the backing of the people, Filipino people, mandato, you have to stop. And I have the power to defer your budget.
You run as an independent, more or less, and I found your case very interesting kasi depende sa issue. I mean, hindi pwede sabihin na eto si Senator Tulfo. I mean, your stance is really, I would say, unorthodox, no? I mean, if hindi ka leftist, hindi ka right-wing, hindi ka etong kampo, hindi ka sa... literally independent, no? In a pure sense of the word. Having said that, of course, hindi kayo nag-isa, 24 yata. Ang dami niyo dyan sa Senado. Are there like natural allies or mga pare, kumpare? I mean, people you have found in the Senate na medyo malapit yung pag-iisip niyo and you have been able to work together, especially dun sa issues na malapit sa puso mo.
I'm trying to be a friend of all the
Everyone,
senators.
of course, yeah.
Of course. But hindi natin maiwasan na meron dyan na medyo nailang ako at nailang sila sa akin. But I have a lot of the senators na I would consider as a good friend. And all the independent ako, naka-align pa rin ako sa majority.
Naka-align ka on
sa
most of
majority.
the issues, yeah.
Kasi I need that. Kung gusto ko para maipasa yung mga bills ko, kailangan nandun ka sa majority para mas mapadali.
And the chairmanships and the important positions so that you can make your voice heard. Now, speaking of some that perhaps some think that hindi masyadong perfect yung inyong interaction. I mean, one of the first times na since you came to Senate na talagang nag-viral yung mga cross-examination niyo is when you raised the issue of real estate and agricultural lands and land grabbing. And of course, one of the senators that you had a little bit of a back and forth. No? Medyo, hindi naman hidwaan, may konting back and forth. I see Senator Cynthia Villar. What was that all about? I mean, was that inevitable? I mean, what was the context of that? Did you expect that she will push back as hard as she did? Because she's very outspoken. You know, medyo may pagkabardagulan pa nga nangyari, sabi ng iba eh.
But if you don't mind, I would rather not talk about it anymore.
Okay, sige.
Kasi okay na kami at ayoko nang medyo lumalim pa yung problema namin dalawa.
So you're definitely a senator who tries to find a common ground despite some disagreement. So perhaps that was a kind of a learning curve, no? Kasi syempre bago pa kayo noon eh.
Yes, nangangapapa ikaw.
Yes, and And in fairness, I think, Senator, you were there to raise the issue per se. I don't
Yeah.
think you were against anyone per se. So,
No, it was nothing personal.
no, exactly. I think perhaps it's other people making some issues out of that. But nevertheless,
Okay, that's another thing that I mentioned to you na pagdating ko sa Senado, I thought nasa RTI pa rin ako. Yan ang sinasabi ng maraming mga tao.
Yes.
You're bringing RTIA into the Senate.
Yes.
But, I've been telling them, but I was voted by the people exactly na para yung ginagawa ko Senado, gagawin ko pa rin sa Senate. Because if I don't do that, then people would say, sinayang mong boto namin. We were expecting that you will not change. Now, nung pumunta ka Senado, naging tahimik ka na lang, naging malamya ka na lang. Sana hindi ka namin binoto. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that people having that perception about me. Na
so
after they
naghanap ka
voted
rin ng
for me,
balance between yung broadcaster style at saka yung pagka-Senado niyo.
mix.
Yeah, exactly.
And then of course,
Yeah.
they voted for me na para pagdating Senado, mabilis ang reaksyon ko tulad ng ginagawa ko sa RTIA, then so be it. Kahit na maraming mga magagalit sa akin, magbabash, ginagawa mong RTIA programa mo, so be it. Yun yung promise ko because binoto ko for that. So I should fulfill my promise to the people who voted for me.
Senator, the other issue, of course, that first year niyo pa lang, no, na really put you on the map is dun sa Maharlika Fund. No, the initial version wanted to put SSS, some of these pension funds there, and you made a very strong stance about that. What is the context of that? I mean, you were still a quote-unquote neophyte senator back then. You were not, the chairman of the finance committee, etc. I think si Sonny Angara pa rin ba? But nevertheless, you came in. What was the dynamics there?
Kasi we know naman, in any kind of venture tulad ng Maharlika Fund investment, merong risk.
Yes.
And ayoko naman mailalagay sa risk itong pera ng mga maliit nating kababayan, SSS, GSIS, yan yung mga pensions ng mga teachers, of course, PhilHealth. I don't want that to be touched. If you want to touch any companies that needs, that you should get money to invest into that Maharlika Fund, go somewhere else, not these companies, not these agencies that I mentioned, because these are the agencies na pera ng mga tao ang nakalagay dyan.
Kaya dapat
Pera
ingatan.
ng mga maliliit nating kababayan
exactly,
na kailangan pag-ingatan ng mabuti.
And Senator, of course, through the course of that, you had to also interact yung executive legislative, right? And most recently also there had to be this, talking with the Malacanang to make sure that the final budget and all. How do you find that process of interacting with President BBM and also finding a common ground dun? Kasi yung Maharlika Fund, ang daming versions na dinaanan yan, di ba?
I'm not that big and important yet in the Senate. So
That's my point. You were still kind of a neophyte, and yet you were in the conversation more or less.
No, I don't go to the president and talk to the president about my legislative agenda and what's happening in the Senate. It's not my job. We have the Senate president, we have the Senate majority leader, we have the pro temp, we have all these higher ups, people that have ranks, and they're supposed to be talking to the president, not me. Ako yung small-time neophyte senator lang.
But you're Raffy Tulfo. I mean, it comes with a certain kind of momentum and inertia, right? Yeah. What is your feeling of other senators dealing with you? Because at once you're relatively junior, but at the same time you're an established person in terms of a public figure.
I'm learning a lot from them, especially from the veterans.
Yeah.
And I hope they're also learning from me.
Yeah.
So mutual yan eh. It's a two-way street. When I came in, I saw na kailangan kong mag-adjust at humingi ng tulong sa kanila, humingi ng advice sa kanila and listen to them. In the same manner, I'm trying to contribute something into the Senate, and I hope they're learning from me, one way or the other.
And yung isa pang issue na, of course, has become very important dun sa mga discussions sa Senado, and in a way, you also had interventions and all, is yung Confidential Intelligence Fund. Where do you stand on that issue, and also the turn of events and debates on this issue and all of that?
I never talked about confidential funds. Never, ever. Kasi, baka sabihin na mamolitika ako.
Yes, yeah. So you rather stay above the fray on this issue because you think it's politicized masyado?
From the get-go, I never touched that.
Right.
So why should I now? Lalo pa, every year, palagi silang gumagawa ng mga service and stuff, and then palagi akong kinukunek kung saan-saan.
Yeah.
And ayoko. Sasabihin, namumulitika ka.
Right. So you're very conscious about that.
Very conscious.
Na hindi, eto na naman, isa kahit sa issue, magsascore ng
right,
pogi
because
points.
I just want to focus on my job.
Service first.
Yeah.
Serbisyo talaga.
Serbisyo, nakafocus lang talaga ako dyan. Ayoko yung bang haluan ng politics at haluan ng mga tao na nagsasabing nagpapolitika ka lang and you're doing that because you want to be famous, you're trying to get an edge over the other people perceived to be
or ganging up on certain individuals kasi daming galit doon.
Exactly.
You have been quite active in terms of discussing yung mga issues sa DepEd sa mga guro, no? Dun sa mga miscellaneous payments among others. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Saan galing itong it seems na malapit sa puso niya when you share yung mga stories ng mga gurus, ng mga estudyante. Ako, of course, teacher din ako. So, malapit din sa puso niya. I teach in the University of the Philippines. So, yung mommy ko ay guro din. So, I come from a family of educators. I'm an educator myself. So, obviously, malapit din sa puso ko yan. So, I wanted to understand, Senator, where does that come from? That concern about the DepEd. The reason I'm saying this, Senator, is because yung education system natin ay talagang malalim yung problema talaga dyan. In fact, I heard a lot of experts telling us, parang ticking time bomb yan in a sense na nung pandemic, daming delays. Kung titignan mo yung World Bank studies doon sa functional literacy, ang baba ng scores natin, even compared sa hindi lang Asia, no? Yung mga ibang napakahirap na bansa. So, I just want to understand, Senator, where is this coming from? Is it because you also recognize ang lalim ng problema, ang daming abuso nangyari, something radical has to be done? Because ang dami pwede pang ibang problema na pag-usapan sa bansa, di ba? Exactly.
Thank you for bringing that up and for asking that very important question. It started more than a decade ago.
Right.
Now, when I kept getting complaints from parents na may mga anak sa public elementary and high school and their complaints are pare-pareho na sinisingil yung kanilang mga anak for the contribution, pambili ng electric fan, pambili ng jobos, chalk, yung mga supplies sa school, pambayad sa kuryente ng eskwelahan, pambayad ng security guard, janitor, stuff like that. And they're using the PTA para makapag-kolekta sila na they know there's a law na bawal yon. So they said, well, it's Parents Teachers Association initiative and it's voluntary. So sinasabi ko palagi, kung voluntary and ba't marami nagko-complain sa akin by the thousands, we have to put a stop to it. May budget naman ng DepEd for that. Meron naman yung MOOE. So year in and year out, palaging kailangan may contribution. Ito pa, Richard, those children, those students who are not able to give that voluntary contribution that they're asking, napapahiya, nilalagay sa group chat. Ito, hindi pa nakapagbigay. Ito, nagbigay na.
So, binubully sila, effectively.
Exactly. It's being bullied and pinapagalitan sa lahat ng mga klase. Sabihin, ito, hindi pa nag-contribute to. Ito, nag-contribute na. Ikaw, hindi ka pa nag-contribute. So I was telling DepEd for so many years, even the previous administration said, stop. But they wouldn't. They wouldn't. They said, we don't want to meddle into that kind of issue because it's a PTA, Parents Teachers Association. They talked about it in their meetings and they both agreed, the parents, the teachers, na magkaroon ng contribution for the improvement of the school. Sabi ko, teka muna, what is the purpose of the PTA? Sabi ko, di ba ang purpose ng PTA for the teachers and the parents, they will talk about the academic performance of their students.
And how to improve it.
And how to improve it, not how to improve your eskwelahan, your room, how to buy paints, how to buy chalks, flower-based, electric fans.
Especially mahirap yung mga estudyante.
Exactly. No? Sabi ko, kaya nga pumunta dyan sa public school because mahirap to. As a matter of fact, Richard, sabi pa nga ng DepEd, itong recent budget hearing namin last, sabi, we have this, what we call yung feeding program. And the purpose of them having that feeding program in public schools para maengganyo yung mga bata dahil karamihan sa kanila, they're so poor, malnourished and they go to school hungry. So when they get to their classroom, they fall asleep or some of them don't go to school anymore. To avoid that, para hindi magkaroon ng dropout, nagkaroon ng feeding program. Sabi ko, no, it defeats the purpose. Na you having that feeding program and yet, sinisingil mo yung mga estudyante.
Nilalagay mo na laman dito, nilalabas mo yung laman dyan sa kabila.
Exactly. And then, how about those students na umaasa lang sa 4-piece yung parents? So, what happens to those kids na walang, yung mga parents na umasang sa 4 piece from the government? So, you will ask a voluntary contribution from them. Kasi kung minsan meron yung tinatawag na peer pressure. O nga, voluntary. Pero yung mga katabi mong mga estudyante, nagbibigay, ikaw wala. Pag uwi mo ng bahay, si ganitong kaibigan ko.
Especially mga bata, di ba? Nagko-compare sila eh.
Exactly. At may konting tuksuan dyan. So I said, it has to stop. And I'm very glad that DepEd did agree with me na they will come out with a department order putting a stop to this voluntary contribution to the PTA.
So, Senator, what you're saying is that this is not about a particular administration or person.
Not at all.
This is a culture of abuse
Thank you.
bullying na nangyari.
That's the right word.
Matagal.
That's the right word.
So you're trying to fight against that culture of abuse, yeah?
The culture of abuse. It's been happening for the past so many years, 2 administrations before. Not this administration, maski pa yung mga nakarang administrasyon.
Exactly. This is a kultura na to eh. Hindi ito one leadership or one administration among others. I mean, there was an episode recently when you brought out the list quite dramatically. I mean, you were quite emotional when you were doing that. I'm sure some people say, oh, the drama na naman si Senator.
I still have the list. More than 10,000 of them.
How did you get it? What's the process? How do you,
Very easy.
Yeah.
As easy as ABC.
Yeah.
Because I have these complainants that went to my show, and then when I post it, after I interviewed them, and then it went viral, and then we have thousands and thousands of complaints in the comment section. Said, ako rin nakaranas ako ng ganun. Ako rin yung anak ko. Ako rin yung anak ko. Ako. And from different provinces, from different towns, from different cities.
Genuine mga tao na to. Hindi
genuine
ito mga bots.
Hindi to troll.
Yeah. Alam mo naman, namin troll sa social media.
Hindi to troll. And nag-testing kami more than 200 randomly, and then pinili namin different provinces and different towns, cities, etc. And they said, yes, talagang pati kami nakaranas yan, dapat i-stop na yan. Thank you, Mr. Tulfo, for bringing that up. Thank you, Senator. And we hope na sana ma-solusyon yung problema yan.
So systemic talaga yung problema.
That's why I said, i-print nyo yan, lahat ng mga nag-comment, nagpadala ng comments about that problema sa DepEd. So, kinumpile namin at inabot ng ganun pagkahaba because there are more than 10,000 ata.
Yeah, I mean, Senator, again, I'm siguro biased ako sa education and all of that, but yun nga, ang lalim ng problema, and when you ask about it, all of the surveys, etc., sobrang napag-iwanan ng Pilipinas. So kahit fastest growing economy tayo, etc., kung yung basic education natin problemado. Kami nga, nakikita namin sa graduate school at university, kasi yung mga umaakyat ngayon, yung kalidad, it's not like before, no? So there's something more fundamental there. But Senator, beyond yung pointing out yung culture of bullying and trying to protect people, are you also, do you have a kind of a initiative to help na talagang iakyat yung antas, yung kalidad ng edukasyon, especially sa basic education?
I think it starts with the teachers. Dapat how can we get quality teachers? How can we get good teachers kung mababa ang pasweldo? And some of these teachers are being abused dahil being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Nakarinig ka ba ng mga loan sharking sa mga teachers na wala silang nilalagay na ceiling cap na kung hanggang saan lang dapat sila pinapayagan na mangutang at magkakaroon ng tinatawag na automatic deduction. Marami mga teachers lubog sa utang. So paano pa ma-concentrate magtuturo na iniisip nila yung paano mabayaran yung utang at ang bababa ng sweldo. So some teachers would rather go abroad in Singapore, in Brunei, because the pay is better. So, hindi tayo makakuha ng better teachers kung ang sweldo natin sa mga teachers mababa at kuminsan na take advantage pa sila. Pagdating sa election, sa COMELEC, ginagamit sila, iba sa kanila, hindi pa nababayaran. So, we should stop that. We should treat our teachers better.
We should take care of our teachers too, right?
Take care of our teachers because the teachers takes care of the students.
Exactly. And overall, that takes care of the economy in the country kung maayos yung education
system. And then, of course,
system,
dapat yung mga textbook nasa ayos kasi may mga balita tayo, mga textbook, mali-mali yung spelling, mali yung grammar, mali-mali yung mga information na nakalagay doon. So, kasama rin doon.
Kailangan ayusin. Of course, Senator, the other thing you're quite known for is also labor rights issues. You're active on this. Also, especially yung OFWs natin.
Yes.
Kasi, of course, I also worked back in the day dun sa legislature, dun sa mga OFW affairs, sa mga others. Marami tayong mga kaibigan, kamag-anak ng OFWs. So, lalong na sikat kayo sa mga yan because, you kind of represent their channel to some sort of justice. Can you tell us a little bit about the OFW issue and what are you doing on that front dito sa Senado?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the OFWs for supporting me. They've been supporting me for so long.
Right.
I can no longer remember the year when they started supporting me, but I know I wouldn't be Raffy Tulfo had it not been for the support of the OFWs. That's why I really love them so much. Right. And I'll do everything to make sure na malalagay sila sa kabutihan, yung kanilang kapakanan ay maprotektahan. Now, what is the problem of the OFWs? You know?
Well, saan tayo magsimula? I mean,
Dito tayo simula.
yeah.
Now, lahat ng ating OFWs, they go abroad for the sake of their family, for the sake of the future of their family. And so, when they get there, magtatrabaho sila. Blood, sweat, and tears. And then, habang nag-work sila, nababalitaan nila back in their country, back here in the Philippines, na yung kanilang anak ay minamaltrato, inaabuso, minumolestya, and then yung kanilang naiwan na mister, ng babae, lasenggo, etc. Yun yung pinaka-nightmare ng marami sa ating mga OFWs. Unfortunately, napakarami niyan. Napakataas ang bilang
yung
niyan.
social cost, no? Ang laki ng social cost,
And that's when I come in. And that's when I give solution to the problem. That's when I ask these DMWs OWA to change some policies para mag-fit in dito sa mga problema ng mga OFWs na masolve yung mga problema na kinaharap nila. Yung mga nightmares nila, mabigyan natin ng solusyon at magising sila na okay na yung problema nila, wala na.
Senator, are you looking at, I mean, in fairness, at least naman yung economy natin medyo umangat over the past decade or so. We're the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia, but still, unemployment is a big problem, inclusive growth is a big problem. Are you hoping that down the road, maging optional na lang, in the real sense of the word, na pwede kang magtrabaho sa Pilipinas as much as you can, medyo mas maganda lang bayad abroad. Hindi yung situation na desperado ka kaya nang abroad ka. Kasi this issue of labor exporting is very unique to the Philippines over the past 4 decades or so, di ba?
Dalawa yan, Richard. Una, malaking tulong yung pag-export natin.
Of course, contribution
like
sa economy natin.
Sa economy natin. In fact, there were several times na nagkaroon ng global recession at hindi tayo masyadong naapektuhan dahil sa ating mga OFWs. Meron tayong cushion. At what social cost. Ito na nga. Kung akong tatanungin, mas maganda kung wala na sa ating OFWs na tatrabaho sa abroad because alam ko yung hirap na magdinanas sa mga OFWs na sa abroad. But the problem is, we don't have enough investment that will propel our economy so that these OFWs don't have to go abroad. Wala Walang tayo sa mga investors. And another problem siguro, bakit wala masyadong nagtitiwala sa ating mga investors, bureaucratic red tape, corruption, electricity, price of the rent, infrastructures, and then maybe we have to change some legislation to accommodate these investors' needs, etc., etc.
Are you? I mean, I know that there are other committees and other senators focus on those issues, but ease of doing business on the investment front, are those issues that you're also invested in the sense that, kasi kung may pakika sa mga yung OFW issues, eventually you have to make the Philippine economy accommodate more and more people dito sa ating bansa para hindi sila mag-abroad under very difficult conditions.
Yes. Kailangan talaga natin mga investors. We need investors. We need them. Pero unfortunately, with the present setup, especially sa ating peace and order situation, in fact, on Monday, I'll be giving a privileged speech tungkol dito sa nangyaring rampant kidnapping.
So this is early December, just to be clear, once this show is out. So in early December, you're going to have a privileged speech on...
Yes.
Right.
Pertaining to this rampant kidnapping. Filipino Chinese and Chinaman, or if I can call it Chinaman, Filipino Chinese or
citizens
from
of
China,
Republic
China,
China.
from Pogo, they're being kidnapped. And the latest of which is inside an exclusive subdivision, well-guarded, gated subdivision, doon nangyari mismo yung kidnapping. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Kung hindi nga safe yung mga well-guarded subdivision, gated subdivision, nakapag-kidnap sila ng mga tao doon, paano pa tayo?
Nowhere safe.
Yeah. Nobody's safe anymore. And that has to be addressed. Now, pag narinig yan ng mga investors, whoa, wait a minute, why should I go there?
Yeah.
We should go somewhere else. We should go to Singapore, Vietnam.
Kasi Banana Republic to. Parang
Exactly. Diyan baka makidnap tayo. kung sa loob ng subdivision, they are not protected, these people, paano na tayo mga investors? So, we have to take care of that problem. That's why I'm going to have a privilege speech, and then later on I'll file a resolution to investigate all these kidnappings. And based on my research and some information that I received, there are some, unfortunately, it's bad news. There are some people in
the government institutions.
I'm not going to mention anyway.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Na supposed to be these people are the ones who should protect the citizens, the people,
Right.
from being kidnapped. They're the ones who are part of the kidnappers.
Because
Members
maraming pera involved, no? I mean,
members
this is
of the
a
syndicate
dirty,
in kidnapping.
I mean, Senator, of course, you're not the first to raise this issue. This has been quite the Pogo issue, concerns with criminality, concerns with tax evasion. This was raised even before you became a senator. Are you in favor of like banning the Pogos altogether or anything like Pogos in the future? I mean,
Banning the Pogo altogether.
That's your stance, yeah.
That is my stand. Hopefully, next year, Pogo will be gone, because I'm the one who signed to ban Pogo forever, not letting them come back anymore. Of course, but we have to give them at least a year or two.
A due process transition.
Transition.
And Senator, you're not worried about your safety and all of that when you take care of all. I mean, medyo controversial mga binabanggaan mo to, di ba? I mean, kung sindikatong, target ng mga investigation and, di ba?
If it's your time, your time.
That's your philosophy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have a separate podcast on, yung resilience and all of that. Lalo yung mga kabataan, gustong-gusto. Can you give me a snippet before we go to the last part of this discussion? Like, where does this courage come from? I mean, how do you become courageous but not stupid? I mean, if I could put it that way, like, how do you find that balance? Kasi syempre, because you have to be around to help, right? Kung medyo hindi ka nag-isip, then you're gone. Then you cannot help people. How do you find that balance, Senator? Of course, with best wishes.
Yeah, if you've seen so much suffering, and you see the big inequality, napakataas ng gap, and then suffering from these poor people, the voiceless one, sinisipa-sipa, pinipitik-pitik, inaapi-api, niyurak-yurakan yung kanilang mga karapatan, that will make you angry. And then yung mga nang api nandun sa itaas, and then especially people from the government who's supposed to help them and protect them, ito'y manang-api. And ito'y manang-api lumalapit sa umiiyak, face to face. You talk to them every day. Manginginig ka sa galit. Try sitting on my chair dyan sa TV5 and you'll see what I'm talking about. Pag nakita mo in tears, people are crying because they've been oppressed, and then they're nowhere to go, they're hungry. Doon yung galit ko nanggagaling. So naipon-ipon yan. So when I go out there, then that's when boom.
So it's that righteous anger, that sense of righteous anger, that there's so much injustice there na kung iisipin ko pa yung sarili ko, baka delikado.
I don't think of myself anymore.
Tutulong sa kanila.
Exactly. I don't think of myself anymore. Yeah. Because for me, I would rather think of these people who's been coming to me every day because they trusted me, because they know that when they come to me, I can do something about their problems, their solutions, give them solutions. And first of all, I wouldn't be Raffy Tulfo hadn't that been for them. So it's just proper that I have to make sure na yung trust and confidence na sa akin ay mapapalitan ko.
I remember talking to your brother, Erwin Tulfo. He was telling something about also how your parents brought you up, your mom, that sense of helping other people. I mean, there's also this family values thing, no? Of social service, of giving back to the community since then. Yeah,
my mom, I can remember when I was in the elementary, nakita ko yung mga asawa ng sundalo pupunta sa mom ko, manghihingi ng pera, manghihiram, marami kami noon, pati kami, naghihirap din. So sinasanla nung mom ko yung kanyang mga alahas para lamang may maibigay doon sa mga asawa ng sundalo na humingi ng tulong. Bibigyan ng bigas, kakainin lang namin. Binibigay pa doon sa mga asawa ng sundalo na maraming mga anak. So I grew up with that kind of environment.
Yun yung ecosystem ng values, no? So naturally, you and your brothers have been carrying this forward. Last point, of course, view from Manila. Usually, yung mga kasama namin dito, ambassadors, diplomats, etc. West Philippine Sea. Pag-usapan natin yung West Philippines, itong last part, siguro, para sa akin, ito yung pinaka-exciting in a certain sense because, of course, I mean, hindi pa ako ganun katanda, but in the whole time na around ako, parang napansin ko, ito yung time na nakikita natin lumalabas yung Filipino nationalism, yung sense of yung dignity natin. Dapat lumaban tayo, something like that. What is your take on this? I mean, for me, this is like a rebirth of the Filipino nation. Kasi kahit sino kausap mo ngayon, may masabi na sa West Philippine Sea. It's almost a gut issue. When 10 years ago, no one knew anything or two about West Philippine Sea issue. What is your stance on this?
Di ba nakaka-high blood? Pero ako rin, high blood na, but I don't want to go to war with China.
Yeah.
Sino ba naman tayo? Of course, as much as possible, dapat iiral yung diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
Pero for now, BBM did the right thing when he went to Hawaii and talked to the Americans
in the Pacific Command.
Command
Yeah.
na para escortan yung mga Philippine Coast Guard natin na magdala ng supply doon sa mga tropa natin sa Ayungin Shoal. Yung medyo nag-back off yung China.
Yeah.
See, I've been saying this all along na dapat tulad ng ibang bansa, merong mag-escort sa mga barko natin na nagkakandak ng resupply mission.
Right.
Nang sa ganyan, hindi na tayo mabubuli. Itong nangyari recently, nagreklamo China. Sabi nila, bakit merong kasamang Amerikano?
Yung aerial patrols
yung aerial
and all
patrol.
that. Yeah.
See, we should keep doing that.
So you believe that we have to work with our alliance and partners, and it's not just US, andyan yung Australia, Japan, but yung mga countries katulad ng India na hindi natin aliado.
In numbers, there's strength. Ganun naman yung China, kaya nambubuli. The bully will only bully somebody pag nakita niya mahina, maliit yung kanyang binubuli. Pero pag nakita ng isang bully na malakas, kasing lakas niya, o mas marami sa kanya, he will back off. He will back off.
Right.
Kasi ang bully, duwag yan eh. Totoo yan. Lahat ng bully, duwag. Ang binubuli nila yung kaya nila. Pero pag yung binuli nila, lumaban sa kanila, medyo magdadalawang isip yan.
So you're happy with the direction of the Philippine foreign policy so far?
Very happy.
So what you're saying is we should be open to diplomacy, but from a position of strength with our allies and friends based on international law.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. On that note, thank you very much, Senator Tulfo. I hope this is just the beginning of... Marami kong gustong tanongin sa'yo, but I know you're a very busy man. There's so much to discuss, and I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to interact.
I hope I'm able to answer all your questions.
Yeah, and very much. And I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Like totally out of nowhere, I'm just throwing out questions at you and all.
Kaya nga, sabi ko, hindi ako bagay dito kasi pang-alta to.
No, I mean, walang notes. I mean, nakikita mo, natural lang itong mga tanong yan. Okay. Thank you so much again, Senator. As always, looking forward to more conversation. Catch us again next week here on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. I'm Richard Haydarian, and that was The View from Manila, where One News, all sides, all the time.